Many older single men aren't alone because they couldn't find someone. They're alone because they finally understood the pattern in their relationships. After years of trying to make the wrong ones work, some married, some almost did. They didn't withdraw from love. They stepped back from repeating what they once thought was normal. At some point, a man stops asking, "Why doesn't this work?" and starts asking, "When did I stop trusting what I already knew?" That shift changes everything. The hard truth isn't that relationships fail. It's that most men recognize the pattern only after they've already paid for it. Stoicism isn't about isolation. It's about refusing to ignore that voice the next time it speaks. When providing replaces presence, most men don't notice this at first. They think they are doing the right thing, working late, taking extra calls, saying yes to one more deal. He tells himself, "I'm building something for us." At first, she understands. She supports it. She says she's proud of him. But pride doesn't sit at the dinner table. Money doesn't notice when she goes quiet. Larry started recognizing his kids more in photos than in real time. He thought exhaustion was proof of devotion. When she said, "We barely talk anymore," he answered, "This is for our future." He wasn't lying. He just didn't realize the future was arriving every night he wasn't there. It's strange to work this hard for your family and still feel distance growing inside your own house. Strange to be praised outside and feel unfamiliar inside. Most men don't disappear into other women. They disappear into work. So he doubles down where he feels competent. He stays longer, and slowly the space between them becomes normal. He doesn't notice the shift at first. She stops sharing small details, stops waiting up. He doesn't realize silence can mean surrender. Years later, he calls it doing my best. She calls it being alone while married. The hardest part is this. He thought he was securing the future. She felt the present slipping away. And one evening, sitting in a quiet house he paid for, he understands what the money never fixed. He stops confusing income with intimacy and asks himself a harder question. If success costs presence, what exactly am I building? The moment that changes everything. If you don't control your pride, it will speak before you think. Winning an argument can feel strong in the moment, but bringing that competitive edge into a relationship slowly turns you into someone she can't relax around. It doesn't explode the house, it just makes it less safe to be in. I once said, "Why are you making this such a big deal?" Just to shut her down. What I was really saying was, "Your feelings are getting in my way." People laughed. She didn't. I thought I was impressive, like I had just made a point. Turns out I was just being foolish. After that, she stopped bringing things to me first. She just adjusted to me. And once someone adjusts to you, they stop expecting you to grow. I replay it, not because she called me out, but because I know when I crossed the line. I tried to make it right later, but apologizing wasn't as simple as saying the words that fed my ego. Now when I feel that rise, I pause. I don't speak until I'm steady again. That isn't losing, it's me keeping my house intact. Do you remember a moment when you let something slip? You thought it was just one night. She thought it was a pattern. She stopped correcting you. She stopped leaning in. Not all at once, just enough. Self-control is catching yourself before you say the thing you can't take back. One moment doesn't ruin love, but repeated moments change it. Awareness can rewrite it, but only if you catch it early. If you believe awareness is strength, let this video know. And by the time they notice it, they're already trying to fix what pride quietly damaged. Never beg for someone to come back. Here's the hard truth. If someone wants to stay, they don't need an explanation. You can feel it in how they sit with you. If someone wants to leave, 1,000 explanations won't change it. The more you chase, the less you stand in your own power. You hear yourself saying, "That's not what I meant." Your voice drops so it won't turn into another argument. Years later, you might look back and shake your head, like a man who once marked down his own worth just to close a deal. Kevin once sat in his car outside her place for an hour just to clear things up. He rehearsed his apology. He promised he would listen more. He promised he would change. When she finally stepped outside, she didn't argue. She looked done. And in that moment, he realized he wasn't fighting for love. He was negotiating for permission to stay. Then he stopped mid-sentence. Not out of anger. He realized he was the only one still trying. He was just tired of convincing someone to want him. Mistaking attention for connection. At some point, a man catches himself doing the same thing again. Whenever the house grew too quiet, he reached for someone, not for love, but for relief. He was lying on the couch, scrolling through old messages. Mary, Jess, Laura. He wasn't unlucky. He just couldn't figure out why the story kept repeating itself, because he was still confusing real connection with temporary relief from loneliness. He laughed and said, "I just didn't like going home to nothing." So he kept texting, until even that felt empty. Chasing feels like movement, but most of the time it's just pacing, like driving in circles and calling it progress. He wasn't looking for a partner. He was trying not to sit alone with his own thoughts. It was always around 10:30 p.m. His body grew restless. The urge to be loved felt louder than the quiet in the room. And that was usually when he reached for his phone. One night, he didn't reach out, not to be disciplined, just to see what would happen. Nothing collapsed. The only thing shaking was his ego. That's when he understood something simple. The world didn't end when he didn't text her. Only the habit did. What time of night is the hardest for you to stay steady? It's easier to chase a woman than to build a life you don't need one to escape from. Paul used to joke that dating apps were cheaper than therapy. Turns out therapy was cheaper in the long run. Then he checked his bank statements and stopped joking. He didn't lose attraction. He just stopped letting it lead. He stopped chasing. Not because he became better with women, but because he no longer needed them to feel solid. The pattern doesn't break on its own. And even after he feels steady, familiarity can still disguise itself as love. The door you shouldn't have reopened. Many older single men don't ruin their peace by chasing. They ruin it by saying yes too quickly. Let's try again. It'll be different this time. A familiar voice that once hurt them. Saying no isn't about being cold. It's about remembering why you left. That second chance often feels mature. It feels forgiving, but sometimes it's just the same problem with a softer tone. The second time cost more, because this time he couldn't pretend he didn't know and still open the door again. He didn't go back because she changed. He went back because facing himself alone felt harder than fixing what was broken. He missed the sound of someone in the kitchen. What he missed was the habit, not the woman. Funny how the mind forgets the arguments and remembers the good mornings. Many men don't return because the love was strong. They return because the silence felt louder. And one day you realize something simple. You weren't lonely. You were calm. And you traded calm for familiar. Seneca once wrote, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." Many men imagine getting back together will feel different this time. They fear the silence more than the mistake. The hardest word for an older man isn't love, it's no. And that word isn't rejection, it's self-respect spoken clearly. But self-respect also means understanding how you were being chosen in the first place. When stability becomes the attraction. He thought she was attracted to him. What she was really drawn to was the stability he represented. It rarely shows up as something obvious. It begins with practical questions. Can you look at my rent situation? Do you think this contract is fair? William didn't mind. Being capable felt good. Being needed felt even better. So he paid for problems and offered advice whenever he could. It felt responsible, masculine, necessary. But something never quite aligned. She appreciated him and relied on him. She just wasn't curious about him. She thanked him often, yet admiration was missing. Over time, he understood something uncomfortable. He wasn't being chosen for who he was, but for what he guaranteed. When a man leads with certainty, people respond to that certainty, not always to the man standing behind it. The conversations slowly revolved around logistics, bills, plans, decisions. Very little about what he feared, wanted, or lay awake thinking about. He wasn't the mystery in her life. He was the insurance policy. There's a man you know who needs to hear this. Send it to him. Money wasn't the problem, and generosity wasn't either. Using either to feel chosen was. Eventually, he stopped leading with his wallet. Not to punish anyone, but to see what would remain without it. Some women lost interest. That hurt. But the ones who stayed asked different questions. Not "can you help me?" but "what do you actually want?" Security can get you noticed. Character is what makes someone stay. Being useful can make you valuable. Being known makes you chosen. He didn't stop providing. He simply stopped proving. And for the first time, who he was mattered more than what he offered. And once a man sees that clearly, he can no longer stay where he isn't truly seen. Leaving after it's already over. The most dangerous relationships aren't the painful ones. They're the ones you convince yourself are good enough. Sometimes what you're stuck in isn't a place at all, but something that quietly ended years ago. There was a man who spent every night at the same bar, same seat, same drink, same hour. When someone asked why he never went home early, he said, "It's easier to sit here than to sit with what's waiting for me." The bar wasn't the point. He wasn't avoiding a house. He was avoiding the silence of something that had already ended. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Most men agree with this in theory. They just delay it in real life. They wait for something dramatic to justify leaving. A betrayal, a fight, a collapse. But most relationships don't end in fire. They end in quiet. By the time he walks away, he's not heartbroken. He's relieved. Relief doesn't come from losing someone. It comes from finally stopping the lie. He's no longer fighting what he already knows. And that's the real loss, not love. Time spent pretending. What are you still holding on to out of habit, not because it still fits? Leaving quietly isn't weakness. It's choosing peace over performance. And leaving doesn't mean someone is the villain. Sometimes two people are simply walking in different directions. Respecting that is also strength. Silence doesn't appear out of nowhere. It grows from the small moments we refuse to repair. There's a reason these truths don't land at 30. When everything is loud, you mistake intensity for meaning. Many men stayed too long, explained too much, confused being needed with being loved. That doesn't make them foolish. It means they were hopeful. The real mistake wasn't loving someone. It was ignoring what they already knew. And time is the one thing you don't get back. As you get older, something shifts. You stop asking to be wanted. You start expecting to be respected. If someone wants to stay, you won't have to convince them. And if they leave, chasing them won't make it right. Some relationships don't fail because someone is wrong. They end because two people are no longer walking in the same direction. After 50, peace isn't a bonus. It's the baseline. If you're building from clarity instead of noise, subscribe to Move or Die Stoic, where we choose strength over noise. Being alone is not the problem. Living without self-respect is. That's not bitterness, it's maturity. And if you're hearing this now, then you didn't learn it too late.